Welcome to the Sports Card Lessons Podcast. I'm your host, Big Ken. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a streaming service, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified whenever I drop any new content. Welcome. Thanks for being here. How is everyone doing? It's been a busy week for me this week, pricing cards, getting ready for the Mohegan Sun show, the East Coast Collectibles Convention. I did this show back in February, sold out my inventory, was still selling football back then. Sold out my inventory, had to go home and reload for Sunday for day two. So, I'm not going home. I'm staying over this weekend. So, I hope this weekend's a lot of the same, but I'm going to bring a lot of extra in case I do sell out. But is it football season yet? Right? Is it football season yet? Should we be breaking these cards out yet? I say this almost every episode, and now it gets to a point where that's mainly what I have. The past 3 years, late May, early June, that's when I broke out the football, and it's what I planned ahead for. I plan like I list out the shows I'm doing, and on the calendar, I'm writing next to the shows what I'm going to be selling at these shows, so I can plan ahead and I know. So then I go out when I'm doing all these Saturday and Sunday local shows or any shows I'm going to. I'm picking up stuff and I'm adding it to different piles for different shows. Even as far like the national is in July, right? And I start shopping in August, and I'll start putting stuff away for that. It just depends on what my thought is, knowing, last year's national was the World Cup for soccer, and I know this year's the Olympics. So, as soon as I came back, anything I can find reasonably priced of Olympic players that I know will be competing in these Olympics, I pick up those cards. And this, I, we're talking Olympic athletes, but there's basketball and baseball. There's so many other sports where professional athletes are going to come in. So I try to find cards, a good variety of cards, right? Just planning ahead. I was hoping with the football right now that the prices would be just a little bit better than they are. And of course we all are, right? If we're sitting on any inventory, we're like, oh, we hope that the prices are skyrocketing. But my football inventory is really cut into thirds, right? So I have a third of it now is raw. Uh, Third of it is what I graded, which is where I'm going to find my most profit in the cards, and a third is what I purchased graded to flip. All right, so those are going to be my lower margins on there. So as far as acquiring the raw cards. Now, if I was just out buying single raw cards, I would be into all of them great. But, unfortunately, there's a lot of breaks and a lot of other things that, get me these cards. So it's hard to calculate like what actually spent versus what comes out of it, right? Because you could go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 breaks of this like optic football, right? And then all of a sudden really getting, low end, depending on what teams you're buying into, and then all of a sudden pull like a whole bunch of bangers and like 2 breaks, so it's really hard to, that's the exciting part. That's the part that keeps going you back, getting you back on that. But so I know on the stuff that I graded, I know what I'm into those cards for, because a lot of those cards I bought raw, so I bought those as singles. I did rip a bunch of Prism stuff, and some of it I did grade, but most of the cards that I graded out of that, I would say probably 70 or 75% were cards that I bought as singles and I graded. Because we know what the quality control is on a lot of these cards. There's a lot of these cards that, just, came out of the pack pull, not gradable. And then we got the cards, that I purchased graded to flip. And, I bought those with an exit strategy, right? I get into those cards, I say, "Okay, I'm buying them December, January, February, March." I know where those are going. They're going in the safe, they're going in the closet, they're gonna come out, June, July. There was no sense pulling a lot of these cards out any earlier than that, and hoping for the best on them too. You Every player, every card is different. Pop counts make a big there that makes a huge difference on some of these cards. If you get a card that's got, thousands, a pop count in the thousand, 2, 3,000, obviously that price is not going to rise up as much as a card that's got a lower pop count and it's, a little, rarer and scarcer. Uh, so this weekend, my plan, heading in there and is written on the calendar is selling off the raw cards. A lot of the cards I got in breaks, a lot of the raw cards that I've picked up along the way that I just didn't feel were worth grading or I wanted to grade. And it's not saying that I've looked at these cards and they're ungradable because there's just a ton of patch cards and things like that that I just didn't think needed to be graded. Right. There were cards that I didn't feel that were going to improve, the value of the card that much that it was worth, grading. So a lot of those cards I put a box aside, and as I was going in, a lot of them, I'll tell you, a lot of them came in breaks. A lot of those patch cards, when Spectra came out and Obsidian and things like that, there's those kinds of cards. It's just like they're great cards, they're numbered cards, they're autos, they're patches, but I just don't think grading them is going to bring that much value. And I don't know how well those cards would grade to begin with. I mean, there were a few of them that I pulled aside that I looked at and I said, "These I would grade these," and I put them and I knew because I put them in a pile to grade. But then when it came time to send them out to grade, and I was looking at the values, I said to myself, "Do I really improve the card that much uh, if I get it graded?" And some of them, yes, then I sent them, and some of them, no, I just kept. Um, so besides that, my plan was to showcase some higher end football that I had. Fortunate for me, I put those cards out at the Fenway show and I sold most of those cards. I have a few of those cards left, but I sold most of those cards at the Fenway show a few weeks ago. Um, so I'm keeping I'm going to put what the higher end ones, I'll put those back in my case. They may or may not sell. I'll have a firm price on them, but hopefully the raw cards that I've been stockpiling, are going to do well for me. What are you guys seeing out there? Is football hitting the cases at the shows? Are you starting to see a ramp up of football, or is it still a lot of basketball and baseball? Because that's really what I'm still seeing, even this past weekend at shows. And I talked about it um, on Monday's episode that I'm just still not seeing that higher end football yet. And who knows? Maybe it just takes the first guy out there can ask his own price too. I mean, I'm complaining for nothing. Maybe if I show up with these cards and put prices on them, that people are going to compare. Who knows? Who knows? But what are you seeing out there? Is there people starting to sell the football? Are they hitting? Are they in the cases at shows? Um, I noticed on eBay prices are starting to go up on some of the graded cards, especially on like Will Levis. Uh, at the Fenway show, I picked up the silver and the downtown, and both those cards are I just checked on them this week, and both of those cards are way up from where I purchased them. And I purchased them well, right? I did, and it all comes down to you need to buy well, right? And I bought well, but even buying well, looking at what the the his silver prism PSA 10 is if I remember correctly, it was like 229 that it sold for. So even just a few weeks ago, that card was the comp on that card was 190. So at 229, that's definitely going up. And the same with the downtown. But of course, everybody loves the downtown. Um, I know a lot of the singles cards, right? Those prices are coming down. And I know it's just from the market being flooded. There's so many of those cards hitting eBay, right? I've been in a ton of optic breaks over the last few weeks, so I'm happy that all these packages are showing up this week, with a ton of cards that I'll be able to sell this weekend. Um, but I'm going through these cards and I'm like, wow, really? This card's only like $3 and $5 and $4, like on cards that I thought would be, worth a little more. They're very low, but then you look on eBay and there's hundreds of them for sale, right? So I'm like, okay, I understand. This is why. I mean, there's just the market is flooded right now with those cards. So there's not a lot of value in those cards, but I'm going to sell them. Um, I'm going to put them out there. Whether football's in the room or not, I'm going to be the guy with a ton of football cards, this weekend, and it's going to be interesting, what it looks like as this, what the show this weekend and what people are breaking out in their cases. I have a ton of singles that are top loaded and in one touches. So some with, some good value, some that, just are just coming in now, right? And I say to myself on those, like things like a Will Levis Purple Shock or Anthony Richardson Purple Shock, and you're looking at the prices, and I know none of them have gotten graded yet, but you say to yourself, is it will I improve the value that much if they get graded? If they come back at 10, right? But if you send them off to PSA, right? I mean, what's the guarantee? Even the card's great. I mean, we've talked about this in other episodes that you may send these cards out and they come back a 9 and they still look great. Is it worth it then to crack the card and regrade it again and try to gem? I mean, what is the value of the card at this time when we're talking about these optic, cards that are flooding the market everywhere right now. So I don't know if there's just so many of them out there, will just the gems, just the tens be that important and everything else is just going to be crap? I don't know. Um, but at this point, I think it's probably better off just to sell them off raw. People want to come buy them. I mean, might as well sell them off raw because I just don't see them being like a high-end product, right? Like something that, it's going to hold its value. And I think just because there's just so many of them out there, just so overproduced right now. Um, and we know if they, like I just said, if they come back less than a 10, then you're stuck, right? Sometimes those nines, the raws are worth more than the nine, even though you've spent money on getting it graded. Right now, people coming to these shows, right? They're coming to buy football. I mean, just like me, just walking into a room, this is what people are showing up for now. Because now's the time they wanna buy to try to, get in early to, try to flip in the next couple of months, right? And even looking for singles, there's a lot of people that just grading is their thing. They're just gonna come in, they're gonna buy singles, and they're gonna grade it, and they still have time, right? I mean, you don't have time. The 50 days is up for the national, but there's still a bunch of shows in August and September. There's still plenty of time to, send these cards off to be grading. So the way I look at it, if I got the cards in the room and my prices are right, I should be pretty successful. I should pretty much sell out most of those singles cards in football because, right, this is what people are buying. I still have Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese cards. Don't laugh. I hear some of you laughing out there, but hey, the positive thing is they're in season, they're playing. And people are still looking for those cards. Not as much as they were, and there's been a lot of talk with Caitlin Clark, and you know what? She's going to be just fine. And I think all these draft picks this year, I think they're all going to be just fine. They're all playing. They're all looking like they fit right in on their teams, and I don't have any worries that I'm gonna be stuck with, Caitlin Clark or an Angel Reese card. I've been picking up Paige Becker's cards, but I'm gonna hold on to those, right? I just think next year is probably, get them in a good price now that they're out of season, right? Especially like a Paige Becker's card. I see people putting them up online and I see these ridiculous prices. I'm like, why would somebody sell it this time of year? Right? I mean, the basketball season's over. We're heading into the summer. The next year's season is months away from starting. I'm not sure why people would be selling of a player who's still going to be in a college uniform next year. But it's happening, and I don't mind buying some of those and putting them away, and we'll hope for a nice jump in price on those next fall and into the winter. Um, I still have my pop culture cards, although that inventory is getting low now, and I'm okay with that. Um, there's a number of pop culture cards that I'm happy to sell, and there's some that I'm happy to have for different shows, depending on where I'm going and where I'm going to be. I will put some out. I don't have to put some out, so uh, I know they'll become attractive in different areas. And I talk about knowing the show, so I know what shows, and I know Chantilly is a show that loves the pop culture stuff. So, I have a number of pop culture cards I'll be bringing down there. Specifically, I picked up and graded and will have just for that show. And if they don't sell, that's fine because they're still great cards. They're cards I could put up on eBay and sell probably pretty quickly. Um, but right now, speaking of Chantilly, I'm sticking to my plan of my graded football to bring that to Chantilly in a few weeks. I'm going to stay with that plan for right now. We'll keep an eye on the prices and hope that that's going to be the move for me. Because Chantilly will be the last show that I'll set up at right now. Will be the last show that I'll set up at until the national. So I'll need to make the best of it right there if I plan on moving the football. Uh, there was a I had some talk of possibly going to the Dallas show. In July, that first weekend in July, but that is just not going to work out. So Chantilly will be the show, and it, when I was looking into doing shows in June, um, there wasn't. I mean, later in June, there wasn't a lot of options later in June. Uh, as far as, like Chantilly is the weekend of the 22nd, and then that following weekend is like the 29th. Then the following weekend is Dallas and 4th of July, right? So there wasn't there wasn't a lot of options, and that looked like the best option for me. I was notified yesterday that I made it off the waiting list for the Fishtown Card Show uh, in August. That's in Philly. I'm excited about that show. It's a new show for me to set up. I've never done this show. I've never been to this show. I do know people who've gone there and have talked about it and liked that show and raved about it. So I'm excited about going there. I knew I had a great shot of getting in, knowing that that same weekend in August, the East Coast National and the Fanatics New York City Experience show is that same weekend. So, I- you know, for dealers, it really makes them have to choose their loyalty when it comes to these shows. When you're putting all these shows, within a proximity of it, close proximity of itself, and you force people to choose, like, what show do you want to do? I know up here in Massachusetts, they've done that a couple times. And I know people that have tables at both shows where they'll be like, okay, I'm going to keep, I don't want to lose my spot. So I'm going to keep both tables and I'm going to put somebody at one and I'm going to go to the other, that type of thing. Um, but it's really not, you know, how good is that for the hobby? How good is that for the shows when you're putting a bunch of these shows all on the same date, close to themselves? When I was just talking about Chantilly, that knowing looking at that weekend, there was really no competing shows around it. So that was another reason I'm like, that's probably going to draw a bigger crowd because they're not competing with another show close by or even a major show at that uh, on that weekend. There's nothing worse than being at a show when they're especially set up as a dealer to show when there's another major show and people are like, oh, well, where's the traffic or why is it slow or whatever. And, it's and both shows are feeling it. It's not just one, it's not just the other. Both shows feel it. And it's tough when they're, fighting against each other, trying to draw people in. And I'm hoping, for me, I'm hoping that the Fishtown show goes well, and hopefully moving forward, I can have a permanent table there. Um, that's kind of my goal with these bigger shows, like this one. But Chantilly, I'd like to get my own booth there at the Chantilly show. I do not have my own yet. I've been on a waiting list, and I mean, I'm sure it's going to take a long time, but you never know. It's just things like this. If they, like getting into the Fishtown show, when there's nothing competing against it, all the regulars are going to be setting up there, right? And now that there's something competing, now there's tables available, so somebody like me can get in. This could happen with Chantilly in the future too, or any other shows that I'm on waiting list trying to get into. A fun story before we wrap up. Saturday, while I was walking the Enfield show, someone I met through the hobby here in Connecticut, we become friends. I've done some deals with him. Tyler at MT Cards and More, who was out in Cincinnati visiting family and went to a card show. And he saw some women's soccer cards there in a case. So he took a picture, sent me the picture, said, hey, anything here you're interested in? And knowing, right, I'm a women's soccer guy, number one, and two, a lot of people aren't selling it. So I appreciated him sending me this, and it actually turned out um, there was a card in there I was interested in. I said, hey, can you give my information to the dealer? Just have him reach out to me. I'd really like to talk to him about he had a Sophia Smith card in there. So I ended up getting a message about an hour later from the dealer, and it happened to be someone that I met last year at the National and a listener of the podcast, my guy Joe at Ohio Sports Collector 2. And apparently at the National, I tried to buy that same card from him at the National, and we just didn't end up getting a deal done then. So we're working on one now. I just thought it was, how crazy, in this hobby that it's so big but yet so small that somebody goes to a different state, sees a card at a show, sends it to me, and somebody not only that I talked to, but the exact card I tried to buy from them almost a year ago. So just crazy. Funny story. That's all I've got for you today. Like I said, I'm looking forward to the Mohegan Sun show. If you're going to be there this weekend, I am there all weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Come find me, come say hello. Monday's episode will drop probably a little later, probably midday on Monday, seeing this is a 2-day show and I'll be there all weekend. I won't be home till later on Sunday. But you will definitely get a full recap of that show. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please definitely subscribe, and most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. And until next time, take care of yourselves and everyone around you.